It's all about the macro productions.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tack Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles in Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you're watching us on Rumble, Band.video, Vigilante TV, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thanks a million. We appreciate your support. If you want to connect with me, macroaggressions.io is the best place to do that. Hopefully you have bookmarked activistpost.com and naturalblaze.com. Get your news from those sources. We appreciate our amazing sponsors. They've been with us from the beginning. Chemical Free Body. You know Tim James. He's a savage. He saved his life by changing his diet and started a company that makes supplements that actually work. I mean, he's insane about keeping the chemicals out. And I'll tell you, the quality is above reproach. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/macro. Check out the 90-day detox bundle. I've done it twice. It really does work. It's green 85, the green drink in the morning like you normally do, and it's just a handful of capsules. But it'll clean you out pretty good. I had to buy new shorts the last time I did it. No exaggeration. So some results may vary, of course, but look, you're going to have good supplements. They're actually going to work. And check out his Water Hero system that they've built. It's a filter, structured water. It's fantastic. It is, you can install it on your home or you can get it in the little pitchers like the Brita. So chemicalfreebody.com/macro. Check it out. Also to the folks over at Van Man. Are you familiar with Van Man? vanman.shop. You got to go check it out. First of all, I like the company. Like, they've got a good attitude online and they are ideologically aligned with us, which I think is important. So it's worth taking a look just to if you're looking for deodorant that doesn't have aluminum, if you want tooth powder instead of toothpaste, if you're looking for lotions that are, as an example, they're vanilla body butter, these are the ingredients: grass-fed beef tallow, shea butter, olive oil, honey, vanilla oil. That's it. So they're kind of in that chemical-free body way of thinking as well. So they're doing outstanding work over there. They've got soap, they've got tallow and honey balm. They've got a brand new deodorant that you got to check out. So it's all happening. Go to vanman.shop. The discount code is macro. Save yourself a little bit of money while supporting some companies that, understand what we're up against. And I'll tell you what, perfect lead into this. If anyone understands what we're up against, it's the author of To See the Cage is to Leave It, the new book with 25 techniques, the few used to control the many. Ladies and gentlemen, back, our good friend, Etienne de la Boetie squared. Hello. Good to see you again, man. How are you?
Hey, Charlie, I'm doing good. It is good to be with you and your audience once again.
You and I shortchanged my audience a little bit a couple weeks ago when we had a phone call for the ages, and we realized about halfway through we should have been recording it. So we're like, you got to just come on. We'll pick up sort of where we left off, but it's great to talk to you. I wish I got to spend more time with you in Mexico this year, but we did chat for a little bit. So it's always good to see you at these events. Let's start with this. Since before we get into the book, let's start with the event. Let's start with Anarchapulco, because you and I have talked about this in the past, and there was some fuckery afoot by those in Hollywood. So let's discuss this, because when the Anarchist program came out, it was a 6-part series by HBO, and they'd been filming that. I guess they'd been filming it for years. I didn't really know much about it because it was before my time. But it came out. I mean, I knew some of the people, I recognized them, but I didn't know a ton of them. But I'm always a bit unsure about the Hollywood scene. You're tempted to want to go that route because you can reach a bunch of people. But God, whenever they get a hold of something, they just bastardize it. What was the situation with this series, and what do we know about the group that was working on this?
So, one of the things I like to say is that the most powerful weapon in organized crime's arsenal is control of perception. Can you get people to believe that they're not free, independent human beings, but they are Americans, and by virtue of where they're born, you now get to tax farm them for half their income and overt taxes, covert taxes, and inflation. And so part of that system is propagandizing the people against people that don't believe in government, i.e. the anarchists. And so when that docuseries came out, I'd been an attendee at Anarchapulco since the original one in 2015. I'd been a main stage speaker for a couple of years. I'd had the best-selling book. My book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed, was the best-selling book at Anarchapulco for 3 years in a row. And so, and I threw the biggest party of the conference, not thrown by the conference, something called the Turtle Party, where we would take hundreds and hundreds, almost 400 people, on luxury coach buses out to our favorite turtle sanctuary where we'd have this party. And so I was really, when it came out, I recognized it, classic hallmark of propaganda, of just absolutely designed to make us look bad. I was distrustful a lot of the people that were involved in the documentary, because I believe that the Anarchapulco conference had actually been there was like a bait and switch in 2018 where, the original anarchists were kind of out and kind of controlled opposition voices were in. And so what I did is I did a real deal investigation where I interviewed 8 different, former Jeff Berwick employees, conference employees, people that were in the conference. And then I did I think it's up to 6 parts now, 6-part investigative series, rolling back, who was involved. And so one of the most interesting things, to talk about, on the Hollywood side of it, is the producers, the executive producers of this docuseries, The Anarchists on HBO, one of whom was the executive producer on a documentary about a future coronavirus pandemic that came out in January of 2020, starring Bill Gates and vaccines. And in this quote unquote documentary, they're talking that, in the future, okay, there's going to be another coronavirus pandemic, but it's okay because Bill Gates and these hero scientists are working on these vaccines, and that's going to really, save the day, as one example of one executive producer. Another executive producer, and I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I thought we were talking, so I would have had notes.
I just wanted, we don't have to dwell on it, but just that there was, there's just, when you get producers that come in with an agenda, you can take footage and cut it any way you want, right? With a good editor, and make people look bad. And I think there were some I think there were some things that in that series that people should have been better about. I think the anarchist community left themselves open for critique and with some of the behavior of that. But again, it's like anything. It's like
No. I think it was acting. So I think the whole thing was produced, and that's really that you can find the investigation at artofliberty.substack.com. But like the case that I make was that, it was a kind of an engineered hit piece designed to make anarchy, people that don't believe in having a ruler. Anarchy doesn't mean no rules. It means no rulers. And the rulers don't want you to know there's an option on the menu called no rulers. And so they're using this media propaganda system that I break down in Government, the Biggest Scam in History, and in To See the Cages, to Leave It. They're using that system to make and denigrate anarchy. And in the docuseries, The Anarchists, they're doing everything from putting subliminal images and text on the screen to, representing, the people as the people involved, so that, there's like, if you've been to an Acapulco, it's a high end crowd. It's entrepreneurs, it's business executives, it's investors, it used to be, quite I haven't been in a while, but it used to be quite the high end crowd. And so we're going to literally point the camera at 3 or 4 or 5 people that are literally the riffraff, the scumbags that wouldn't even be in the conference if Jeff Berwick hadn't let them in, and they didn't have free tickets, and they're drug dealing into the crowd. And so that they point the camera at that, and then they tar all of anarchy with these scumbags and riffraff. But like I said, I break it all down, but I just think that it's a good segue into, the new book, because one of the techniques is to use the media system, one of the 25 techniques. So the name of the book is To See the Cages, to Leave It, but the subtitle is 25 Techniques the Few Use to Control the Many. And one of those techniques, and in the book I've got, I've got links to the, investigation, but they're using the monopoly media and even control of the dictionary where they've changed the definition of the word anarchy to mean chaos and dystopia. And in my book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, I actually compare the 1827 definition of anarchy from the Webster's dictionary with the modern version from Merriam-Webster, so you can see how it's been changed.
Yeah.
And then I break down a couple of the other scams of where they're really, using these tricks to, that you wouldn't even know. Like if you watch The Anarchist, you might even not, and you came into it blind and you had no idea who these people were or whatever, you would come across with a bad taste in your mouth, not realizing that they were running all of these like little subliminal, tricks on you to get you to not like anarchists.
Yeah.
And so that's really, that's one of the techniques that I expose in the new book. And that's one of the techniques that we exposed in this 6-part investigation.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about an Acapulco is your trip is whatever you make of it. Every time I've gone has been real high vibe. Everybody in a good mood. Recently, the last couple of years since it moved, I think has been at a better location. I often tell the story on this show about how my first year there, my first real experience with like how this conference is different from everybody else's was that I was sitting at the hotel, at the main hotel in the lobby waiting, and I see these 3 luxury buses pull up. And I say to someone, I'm actually waiting because I've got ayahuasca in like 30 minutes, right? So I'm waiting for my group. But I go, hey man, what are all these buses here for? And he says, well, that's for the turtle party. And I go, what's that? You go, they're taking everybody to the beach to let the baby sea turtles out, in the ocean. And I'm going, that's some anarchy, man. You know what I mean? They're not taking them to the Molotov cocktail workshop. Like, no. And the thing is that what I didn't realize at the time is that was your deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fundraiser. So my organization's called the Art of Liberty Foundation. And I originally started that party because some people wanted to have a bonfire on the beach. Somebody had a bonfire the year before, and so in my youth, as my first entrepreneurial activity, I used to throw parties in high school and in college. And so I said, "Hey, I'm going to throw. Everybody wants to have a party. I'm gonna, go throw this party." I walk down to the beach and I just start planning it out. And there's like a bar here, and I'll rent this bar, and there's nobody at the bar. And so I go to the place next door and I walk in and I'm like, "Is there anybody here that speaks English?" And they go and get this beautiful young woman and we start talking. And I'm like, "Yeah, I wanted to rent out this bar." And I start looking around and there's like surfboards and there's turtles and there's bunny rabbits and like animals. And like, I'm like, "We want to have a party. Do you rent this place out?" And all of a sudden, boom, I think the first year we might have had 50, 75 people. Then, the next year we turned it into a fundraiser for the foundation. And we had, I want to say 300 people. And then we had almost 400 people the year after that. But the whole thing climaxed at kind of midnight, and we would, everybody would be, on the beach, no lights. You can't not no cell phone, people had cell phone cameras, but they didn't have the lights on. They were trying, but like no lights, because that throws the baby turtles off. And so everybody's in the beach in kind of darkness, and they're releasing these turtles. And it was very fitting for a freedom oriented, audience to be able to let watch these turtles, go through their captivity and then swim freely in the ocean. It was epic. Everybody always had a good time at the turtle party.
And there's plenty of nature documentaries. They could have very easily had those Anarchapulco cameras just follow that, right? And cut that into it and make it about, like, look at all these good deeds that these people are doing, that they're actually like, they care about things. That was my disappointment with the whole thing, was that people weren't going to realize, like, no, these people are really good people. They care about making the world a better place. And by the way, they're not out there trying to fix a broken system. They've moved on. As you mentioned, the entrepreneurial spirit that infuses that conference is part of what, when I leave each year, it's part of it is like, I meet great people and I feel inspired and recharged. But another part is like the entrepreneurial side gets you going too, because there's a lot of smart people down there with great ideas. And the first time I saw your book, your first book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, and I've got it here. We moved. I've got it in a box. And I just flipped through it. I went, how like when sometimes it's an idea that's so simple that you feel stupid for not thinking of it? Well, you wouldn't in this case because you thought of it. But I looked at it and I just went, that's just the smartest way to do a book for the visual learners. And now you're back and I've got it to see the cages, to leave it. You're going to want to get this. And the reason is because you need, if you've got like at your house, if you've got like a coffee table and it's got some magazine, I like, my wife will decorate it with some magazines and whatever, some interior, whatever. This is beautiful enough on its face to be on your coffee table. But oh shit, if you open this up, you're going to get sucked in and there's going to be some conversations. Can we talk a little bit about this? Because you're all about solutions here, man. And this is very refreshing, because it's one thing to just say, we've got problems with government. We know that, and we can identify it, and we'd be right to do so. But you just hammer us with all of the things that we can do to be aware of how manipulated we're getting. And it's like, you read this book, man. I don't know how you could read this book and have the light not turn on. So congratulations again on this one. I don't know why this won't be like an Acapulco bestseller for 3 years in a row as well. Like, good job, man. Amazing.
Yeah, so so what I do, and I don't want to, because I just did a podcast with James Corbett where I kind of broke down all of the tricks and the techniques that I use in the book, and it's not really tricks. It's most people are visual learners, and they come to insight much quicker if you show them a historical photo or a visualization or a meme, and the information can flow in because information comes dramatically faster through the eye than it does through the ear. Or if you had to if you had to physically read, it's called the picture superiority effect, and if you had to physically read a description of a hammer, it's going to take you longer to physically read the description of the hammer than see the hammer. And then that the idea of the hammer, or the ideas that are presented in the book, they just come so fast that anybody kind of flipping through the book, they don't have to read that much to get an understanding of what's coming at them, and then they're hooked. And so the fact that you're using visualizations, and I jokingly say, I didn't because I know you got a high quality audience. I know a lot of people that are in the audience already know this. I didn't write this book for your audience. I wrote this for your friends, your family, your colleagues who aren't going to, number one, probably read a text only book. And number two, so what I'm trying to do with the book is dramatically expand by 2, 3, 4 times the amount of people that will engage with a text only book. So now I'm expanding the amount of people that will engage in it. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I'll just go ahead and I'll spoil it for the audience. The government has been selling the idea of having a government as a religion. The religion's called statism. It is the completely indoctrinated belief in the legitimacy, the necessity, and the desirability of having a government in the first place. And they're selling it using all of the tricks and the techniques of an unethically manipulative religion or a cult to get you to tithe. And so, they're going to they're going to take kids, they're going to put them into a mandatory government school. And even if you go to a private school, they've got to teach to the government's curriculum to get their accreditation. So so even if you went to a private school, the government is legitimate, desirable, and necessary before you're old enough to really evaluate the logic and the morality of that claim for yourself. And so they're going to, put you into this mandatory school that is the church of the state. And the teacher is the priest, and the priest is going to teach you about the holy documents of the Constitution. And they're going to take you, to Mecca in kind of middle school, Washington, D.C. And they're going to you're going to sing the hymns, the Star Spangled Banner, and you're going to be taken to the cathedral of the capital that looks like the Vatican, and you're going to be taken into the temples of Jefferson and Lincoln, and you're going to see the deities of Jefferson and Lincoln, and it's going to be hushed, and it's going to be reverent, and you're going to be subsumed in this. And then the media is coming around, and these, like I said, there was, I use the example in, the anarchists where they're putting these subliminals on the screen. Well, Hollywood is doing the exact same thing. They're product placing the American flag into moments of high positive emotion to get you to have a warm and fuzzy about the flag, where you don't even realize why you have such a warm and fuzzy about the flag. But they've been doing it for decades. And so that people are subsumed in this to the point of where they don't really even notice it unless you stack it up. And so in this book, something that's different from Government, the Biggest Scam in History, is there's a lot of video links, and you can, take your camera, and you can, hit a QR code in the book, and it'll screen pop a video. And one of the videos that screen pops is 469 product placements of the American flag in just 12 Michael Bay movies. And so, it goes by. I know it's crazy. It's insane. And you never really notice this unless you
Reduce
watch
the
this,
ridiculous, man.
It's ridiculous. And then
That's
you're
how
like,
you do it.
oh, I never saw it because I wasn't looking for it and I'd gotten kind of used to it. But when you string together and like I think the movie the this video is like 7 minutes and they just show it like a second or two where the flag is on the screen and then they have a arrow that points to the flag and then they've got a counter and it's going ding 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 and the counter is going 257 258 259 and then by the time you get to 469 you're like, how did I not see this? How did I not realize that this was going on? And, that's just one director and that's just 12, different movies. And you realize, so whether it's, the flag worship ceremonies at stadium events, the jet flyovers, those are examples of a marketing technique called anchoring, where they get you when you're in this moment of high positive emotion. So you're at the ball game, you're like, you get the excitement of the crowd, you get everybody's got a buzz on from having a couple of beers, you're eating fun stadium food and everything. And then they show you the flag and then they have the flyover and it anchors the flag to that moment of high positive emotion. Or in the movies, we gave that example of them just saturating the US flag through through a movie. But like a lot of times what they'll do is the entire movie will build up to a moment of like high positive emotion. Rocky winning for the USA. And then he's gonna lose, and then he wins, and then now he drapes the flag around, and now you're at that moment of high positive emotion, and they're showing you the flag, and they're showing you the flag, and they're showing you the flag. And I go on and on. I'll give one more and then we'll talk about it. Because the one more is not funny because I find it abhorrent. But another example of that is that they have manipulatively woven the flag into the burial ceremonies for the military and the police as a way of tricking the population into associating the flag with the memory of their beloved deceased. And you see it all the time. You see people that still have the flag in their their home, on the mantle, in the office, or whatever. And now every time that you look at the flag, you think of your deceased, the person that you love, that now the flag represents, because they're tricking you. And I just break down, and it's not really 25. It's actually probably 50, because there's a lot of them that have sub techniques, the techniques they run on the military, the techniques they run on the police. I just kind of lumped them all together. But you don't, a lot of things that people grow up and they don't like. Why is the government doing that, or why is that in culture, or why is they've never really thought about it. And then once you really understand, oh, they're doing that to trick me into thinking I'm an American. It's been decided for me. They're like, oh, now I owe them money. Now once you get it, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's the gift that I'm trying to give to humanity is producing this book where your friends, your family, your colleagues, boom, I can take them to that moment of insight where they get it. They're like, I just never saw it before. Because once you see it, there's one of the techniques that I'm using is called human beings are really good pattern recognition machines. And once you realize oh, wait a minute, this is like a pattern, they're doing this on purpose. Well, then your brain goes, oh, that's artificial. They're trying to trick me. Nobody likes to get tricked. Nobody likes to get fooled, chumped, duped, taken advantage of. Then they're out because then they realize the government has been tricking me.
Yeah. Man, I had everything on your list. I was ticking everything off your list, like the trip to Washington, D.C. in middle school. Yeah, I went in 6th grade. And when we went there, was it spoken about in reverence? Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. I look back on that now and I think that's the trip to Israel, right? That's our trip to Washington D.C. You know, that's where you go and you do the Washington Monument. You see all the things, and you know, as a sixth grader, I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't. You know, I didn't have any interest in it. Um, Oh, my dad I remember before I went, my dad said, "If you see Alan Cranston, who was a senator of California," he said, "tell him he sucks." And I just said, "Okay." That was the only thing I remember. Um, so,
You know what? Hey, since you
but
brought up Israel, since you brought up
yeah.
Israel and the trip, how they take that, like they'll take the American Jews and they'll do this product placement and they'll give them a free trip to Israel and they'll blow their minds and they're, a lot of them are young, they've never gone out of the country before, being in a foreign
Mhm.
land, and they'll run through all these like really good experiences, and then they have it like, so it's the same kind of technique. But the other thing, and my other book does a good example of this, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, because in Government, the Biggest Scam in History, I break down kind of 20 techniques that really all the governments are using. And so this one focuses on the religiosity and the fact that it's an indoctrinated religion. But the first one focuses on the fact that it's a playbook, and all of these governments, the Nazi government, the Soviet Union, East Germany, and the United States, they're all running this playbook. And so they're all gonna, all that, like Israel is running the exact same playbook on their tax slaves that the United States is running on their tax slaves, and Russia is running the exact same techniques on their tax slaves as the United States and Israel are running on their tax slaves, and North Korea is running the exact same techniques. And it is a playbook. And then once you realize that, well, wait a minute, why is the United States running essentially the exact same techniques as North Korea? They have a mandatory government school. They have
Yeah.
a military, program for the kids that puts the
Yeah.
kids into the uniform, single form kind of a, group conformity when they're very, very young. They get awards for regurgitating the fable of the government and the state. And like, it's a program, and we're using the exact same techniques as Israel and Russia and North Korea. And it really
Yep.
gets people to think when they see them, like lined up like that.
Yeah, totally. It really does. I mean, and they're gonna keep running this play until we figure out how to stop it. There's a chapter in my octopus book called Student Body Right, and that was a play that USC used to run back in the '60s when they had O.J. Simpson as their running back. They just hand the ball and he'd run to the right, and everybody would pull, and everybody would run to the right, and it was an unstoppable play. And O.J. ran
My
behind him
high
and
school
scored.
I played football in high school. We ran Student Body Right.
Student Body Right. You know what I'm talking about. And I wrote that as the chapter name for the chapter on Israel. And the reason why I did that was because I was talking about how Israel is running this unbeatable play, which is whenever you get criticized, just claim anti-Semitism, or whenever you're in Europe and get criticized, just bring up the Holocaust. And so they had this play that was unstoppable, that they would keep running and running and running. These governments also have a play that they keep running that's unstoppable, so they're gonna run it over and over again, and that is shaking us down, keeping us in fear, m managing our perception coming through the government school system. The best advice I remember getting was from David Rodriguez. When I said public school, he said, "Stop calling it public school, call it government school." And from that moment on, I've been calling it government school because it frames it properly as the shitty experience that it is, right? That anything from the government is uniform, unisex, whatever, it's one size fits all. So, I thought it was a great way of me reshaping my language to make sure that I framed it as government schools and talked about the police as wearing costumes and not, and delegitimize their authority by making them look cartoonish just off the bat, and these tactics. So they use them on us, right? We might as well at least know what they are, so that maybe we can move out of the way of them, or use them back on them. right? If we know how to, if they're manipulating us by using these tactics, I mean, if I'm aware of the tactic, doesn't it make it infinitely more difficult for them to pull it on me?
Oh, without a doubt. And so, I say that all the time. Once, you can only be fooled by the trick until you understand how the magician does the trick. And so one of
Yeah.
the things that I'm doing is I'm showing people how the magician does the trick. And then, one of the other kind of interesting things about the book, both Government, the Biggest Scam in History, and To See the Cage is to Leave It, have become one of those rare book titles that people are buying in five. We call it a friends bundle. We've got fives and tens, and people are buying them around the world, and they're giving them to their friends and their family and their colleagues because we call it, the Art of Liberty Foundation, we call it the one-way revolution. No, because again, nobody likes to get chumped, nobody likes to get fooled. Once people realize and see it with their own eyes, and seeing is kind of believing, and it just comes at you so quick when just you can even flip through the book and really understand, like within 10 minutes of like what the book is like, like telling you, then you're kind of out. Not everybody, because some people, like, there's a lot of, especially if you've been in the military, especially if your identity is around being a Marine or ex-Marine, or, or if you're getting a paycheck from the government, it's hard to get a man to understand something when his salary depends upon his not understanding it. And so it's not gonna, it doesn't work in every single case, but I have just mad, crazy, examples of people that have taken their flags down and that have, had life-changing experiences. And I've got, a collection of all these people that have written me to tell me the story of, they've taken their flag down. I'm about to go test it, and I'm about to drop 15, 20 copies just on people that have flags with like a little letter saying, "Hey, I saw your flag. I don't think that flag means what you think it means." You know what I mean? And I'm going to see
Mhm.
out of 15, 20 copies, how many people like just flip through this book and take down that silly flag. And because it really is like, the flag signifies I'm being I've been chumped. I've been,
Yeah.
I've adopted a artificial belief system that's being indoctrinated into the population so that the population can be robbed, controlled, and tax farmed. Uh, I'm
Mhm.
I'm literally flying the flag of the system that is stealing half of my money in overt taxes, covert taxes, and inflation. I think I can win by voting harder in their obviously rigged elections. Like, it means to people that are awake and to people that understand what's going on, the flag does not mean what it means to somebody that's a low information uh,
Mhm.
voter, or low information citizen, or low information human being. If they don't get the basics of how they're being robbed and mulked, they're literally flying the flag of the system that is stealing their money. It's quite unbelievable.
You almost have to stand in appreciation of the manipulation that we've been under. I mean, like, wow, like the the selling of the American flag as, I mean, I don't get weepy about it. I never have. I I do think in retrospect, again, looking back on this as an adult, looking to what I was doing as a kid, when you stand up in the morning and put your hand on your heart,
Mhm.
face the flag, and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, I I to watch that now would be like an insane form of child indoctrination, or, like, statism. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I would burst out laughing if I happen to see something like that again, because to me, it's so obvious, as you said, that to see the cage is to leave it. But
Mhm.
when you don't know that you're when you don't know to be looking for it, maybe. And I didn't know to be looking for it. It just was one of those
Well,
things that was so
I don't hold
normalized.
anybody. Yeah, I don't hold anybody like first of all, it's $1 trillion system. So it's a
Oh,
system
yeah.
that
I
over
mean,
the, over the past, let's say, 50, 60, 70 years, however far you want to go back, it's $1 trillion worth of propaganda. It's hundreds of billions of dollars of propaganda a year, with everything from, them paying, they were paying the sports teams $57 million a year for the flag worship ceremonies and the flyovers, and like people don't understand that the government's paying for those flag worship ceremonies at the games. But it's a control of perception, where not only have they been weaving it into the television shows and into the movies, and by the way, it's 1,000 plus television shows, 1,000 plus movies that we know of, that Hollywood, or that the Department of Defense or the intelligence agencies have had. They've either provided funding, or they've had script control, where they've been able to actually rewrite history. There's a great documentary that I mentioned in the book called Theaters of War that I highly recommend. They're literally the military and the intelligence agencies are rewriting history with respect to the films. They're excising things like the My Lai massacre, and the fact we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And you never really, it's people, if they get all of their information from the television, which the majority of people do, they have no idea what's really going on. They have no idea why we're fighting these wars. They have no idea that these were lies and manufactured evidence. And
yeah.
people are subsumed in $1 trillion worth of propaganda. But once you realize that it's going on, then you kind of have you have a kind of little bit of an obligation to put on the big boy pants and go, oh, wait a minute. These people have bad intentions for
Yeah.
my family, my friends, my neighbors, my colleagues. I need to do something about it. I have to take some action. I've got to make sure that my kids have a future. And so, they had me hook, line, and sinker. I almost went into the military. I went and took the armed forces, the test that you take, right before you go in the military. I was in a recruiting thing until somebody explained it to me. And so I stand on the shoulders of giants. Somebody had to explain it to me, but once somebody explained it to me, I'm like, I'm out. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you had me, but no more. And that's really what humanity's got to do. Humanity's got to be real with how they've been tricked, and they've got to own it. And like I had to own it, and probably you had to own it,
Yeah.
and everybody else that's ever
Of
woken
course.
up had to eventually
Oh,
go,
yeah.
okay, I was fooled. They had me hook, line, and sinker, but no more, now that I understand that they're fooling and tricking me and running these unethically manipulative techniques on not just me, but my kids and my friends and my
Yeah.
family.
There's no shame in getting tricked by the system. I mean, as you said, it's $1 trillion system. It's been in place for a long time. It's very good at what it does. It manipulates people. My fear, if the low information people, if they were just at home and out of the way, that would be one thing. But unfortunately, they're clogging up society and not understanding what's going on. And then, of course, doing the performative act of voting, and then wanting to argue with you, and you just want to go, you don't have a tenth of the information that you need to have this argument. It's frustrating sometimes. And I know that you've spent a lot of time waking people up, and what is through your through your journey of writing, you're writing books that are visual, but I know you're also throwing parties and talking to a lot of people. So what works and what doesn't work when it comes to connecting with aunt or an uncle who, you think maybe there's a light there. You see something. They asked a question one time to you and you went, "Ooh, I think there's a chance with this person." How do you have that conversation without coming across as unhinged or whatever?
Well, I think there's 2 or 3 pillars that have to fall to bring somebody, from advocating violence on their neighbors through the political process to being a free thinking and independent human being. One of those pillars is you've got to understand that government is 100% illegitimate on its face and that it's based on violence. And that's pretty easy because I like to, like the analogy I like to use is, if you're on a desert island and you've got 10, and it's you and 9 of your friends, explain to me how you get a legitimate, moral government. And so it's like a little puzzle that they want to try and solve, and there's really no solving it. There's no way that 6 people can force 4 people to pick all the coconuts. Like anybody can see that that's immoral and that's illogical. So you can't do it by voting. You can't do it with a constitution. You can't do it with a coronation. You can't do it like once somebody really gets that through their mind that, that's been a trick. The other thing is even a little bit of a harder lift, which is really, giving people kind of like the basics of how the system works. And so, it's the banks at the top. The banks create money out of thin air using a technique called fractional reserve banking. They're stealing the value. The process is inflationary. So when you go to get a loan or a car loan, they're not loaning you depositor money. They just, credit your account with these digital dollars. And then that process steals the value out of everybody else's money. And so they've bought up the media. So the media isn't going to tell you why your dollars are losing more and more and more value every year. Number one, they're stealing it. Number two, it's an economic warfare against you to keep people, poor. To keep them, like poorer than they would be. We'd all be fabulously wealthy if it wasn't for government. You don't really need government. That's the kind of the third pillar is you don't really need government. Everything the government does would be done better, faster, cheaper by the free market. But those are but until people understand that they've bought all of the media, they've bought the search engines, they've bought the AI, and the money that they're spending hundreds and hundreds of billions a year to control perception, to control the information that society receives, that's their number one weapon. And once people get that through their head and they understand, oh, that's why all of the media is on board with the COVID. That's why all of the media is on board with 9/11. That's why all of the media is on board with the bailouts, even though 90% of the country didn't want to give the banks trillions of dollars, they did it anyway. Once they get that, then, those are the 3 main pillars that need to fall. And it's harder for some people. Like I said, if you work for the system, it's harder for you to ignore that paycheck. If you went through the Cub Scouts, the Webelos, the Boy Scouts, the Explorers, the JROTC, the ROTC, basic training, and then police training, it's a lot harder to get people to understand that they've been, they've spent their entire life, to a system that's tricked them into a worldview so that they will go and use violence on other people for the system. And that's really the, like the big poverty of the system. It isn't so much that they're tricking people into giving them money that the people don't really owe them. It's they're tricking the order followers into setting their morality aside and then using violence on peaceful people, either to, rob people in foreign lands in these wars of occupation, or on the police to raise revenue on their neighbors, to get them to go rob their neighbors on the highway and arrest people for victimless crimes. And that's really the poverty of it. The sadness is that they've tricked these people into shooting their karma and doing bad things.
So funny. I I realized that most people have just never been asked their thoughts on this. I had a buddy of mine who I was trying to get him to recognize the flu numbers of 2019 versus the COVID numbers of 2020 and how the 38 million that were one place and then vanished and then were somewhere else. And I was trying to have him work it out in his head. Right. And you could, he was verbalizing it for the first time and you could kind of see the little hamster on the wheel. You know what I mean? But, and his answer was nonsensical, by the way. But I kept thinking, like, sometimes you just need to ask, "Hey, cool flyover here at the Super Bowl. Why'd they do that? Just hey, Dad, why'd they do that?" You go, I don't know. Why'd they do it? I don't know. Why'd they do it? It didn't happen for free. Right? Somebody paid for that. Somebody organized it. Somebody, as you mentioned, the military's paying the sports leagues. I come out of the sports world. They're paying them for that. That's there for a reason. So the question is, okay, so who paid for it? The US government paid for it. US government paid the sports leagues to fly their planes over it at the beginning of the game. Yes. Why did they do that? What is that an advertisement for? Right? Is that just like, if you just ask one or two questions about something as seemingly commonplace as that. I mean, everybody knows if you go to a big game like that, the planes will fly over. They do it at the Rose Bowl. I mean, I've been stadiums where they've had that happen all the time. I mean, it's a thing. Nobody ever asks.
It's funny.
Why
It's funny that you brought it. It's funny that you brought up the Super Bowl because that's one of the pictures that I have in the book, To See the Cage is to Leave It. And in this year's Super Bowl, they didn't do the flag worship ceremony. What they did was they had Kendrick Lamar's backup dancers dressed in red, white, and blue. And then while everybody's like rocking out and everything like that, then they all form the flag. And so they get that there you go, boom, there it is. So they get that anchor. Okay. So everybody's in a good time. Everybody's listening to a song that they like. And then boom, they're going to show you the flag. And they're going to do it in a way that I think people are kind of wising up a little bit to the flag worship ceremonies. So we'll do it in a fun hip hop way. And then in addition to them doing that, the other picture in the book is Mustard, the other rapper with Kendrick Lamar, has got, oversized flags on like very prominently on his jacket. And so like somebody instructed them to do that. Okay. Who did that? Who instructed them to do that? And then all of a sudden you're right. Like you start realizing, hey, they're weaving it into society while they have everybody's attention at the Super Bowl or at a game or whatever. And they're just, I'm going to show you the flag. I'm going to show you the flag. I'm going to show you the flag at these moments of high positive emotion. And then everybody's got a warm fuzzy for the flag without realizing they've been tricked into it.
No sense having a flyover in a dome. You know what I mean? So the infusion of Hollywood into it really, I think people can now see with clear eyes. You mentioned the Michael Bay movies. It's not limited to that, as we know. I thought it was funny that in my Octopus book, I put a big list of all the movies that at the time, this was years ago, but had Department of Defense involvement in one of them that cracked me up was Ernest Saves Christmas. somebody at the DOD wanted to say in the script somehow. I don't know. I don't know exactly why, but I remember coming across this and I was just like, these fuckers will find a way to try to manipulate us every way they can, of course, and they know us better than we know ourselves. They know how our minds work. Of course, once we start to get into the technology of filmmaking and subliminal edits and things like that, you brought up on Corbett's interview something that I had seen years ago that was so fantastic. I wish everybody could see it. In fact, they should probably watch your interview with James Corbett because it's great. It's a great one. But it's the signal, the signing off of the end of the television day. There used to be TV's on 24/7 now, but back in the old days, it used to kind of go off at like 2:00 in the morning before it went to like static snow. And it would be like one of these like, God save America, like one of these things going on. But as the text of the words of the song are running across the bottom scroll of the TV, they're flipping from one set of words to the next set of words. But as they're making that transition, there's a third set of letters that's underneath that if you slow it down, you can see subliminal messaging, right? So these guys have been doing we're up against a massive technological advantage that they have, right? I mean, oh my God, like and that was happening in what, the 70s, right? So here we go, 50 years of mind control that we're not even aware of, like, holy shit.
Right. And so if you haven't seen that, so the human brain is really, really powerful. And even though it's only on the, so they're scrolling, they're putting this subliminal text on there, obey government, God, rebellion won't be tolerated. So they're using, again, unethically manipulative techniques on the population. And if you don't understand that this is going on, then you're somewhat crippled against it. Once you do understand it's going on, then you're empowered and kind of powerful, and you can avoid it, and you can point it out and go, oh, they're doing that. It's a little bit like, having, understanding logical fallacies. When somebody uses a logical fallacy on you, oh, that's a appeal to authority. Oh, that's a straw man argument. Right. Oh, that's a bandwagon argument. You're able to deflect it. And so knowing that the government's running these techniques on that, you can point out to your kids or your family like, oh, and then it just loses all of its power. And the fact that they're doing it on the sly, then now society's having an entirely different conversation about, what's going on. The other thing, I'll say one more thing about the subliminal text at the end of the broadcasting day is, they have everybody in that alpha state. I can remember being a kid when that would come on, and I was like halfway asleep. And so you're in a suggestive state to begin with. And so they've got you in, that state where information flows in, and it's not critically examined. And so it's just the brain will believe it because it's not able to critically analyze it in that brainwave state.
So once you know this, it's not accidental. They're doing this intentionally. Who's doing it? The government is doing it. You go, okay, there is an entity, this government, that is actively, subliminally trying to manipulate me. Why should I believe anything they say to me about anything from this point forward?
I don't understand why anybody believes anything they say about anything for years. Like, well, if you once you know how many times they've been caught lying, from the Gulf of Tonkin to Iraqi, Kuwaiti babies tossed out of incubators. Like once you like to JFK to weapons of mass destruction in Iran, in Iraq, to like the unbelievable story of 9/11. Like, I don't understand why anybody believes anything the government says about anything. I'm shocked and amazed. Like, how many times do they have to be caught lying to you flat out? No ifs, ands, or buts. 100%.
Yep.
Why would you believe anything that the media tells you about anything?
Yep. I agree.
Because I want to talk one more thing. I want to add one more thing to it. So, you said it's the government. So what I like to think of, I call it intergenerational organized crime that's using the technique of government. Think of government as a technique for robbing and controlling populations. And so they're running government on the population so they can be robbed and controlled. But the government itself isn't really doing it. It's the banks at the top that are creating this unlimited amount of money. And that unlimited amount of money through the fractional reserve banking is what's allowing them to buy up the government. It's what's allowing them to buy up and monopolize the media. It's allowing them to implement AI on the population. It's what's allowing them to shadow ban authentic voices on social media. It's what's a lot like that. So the government makes fractional reserve banking quote unquote legal, which would be illegal if the government didn't, give them the pass to do it. But the government really is this, this creature of the banks. It's the banks on top. They're buying up the world with these little paper tickets. BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street and other asset managers are holding the ownership of companies that have been stolen through fractional reserve banking. And then those C-level executives and the editors and the publishers and the reporters, they're being collected into organizations like the World Economic Forum and the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderberg Group, where they're meeting in secure locations around the world on a regular basis, where they're given their marching orders that, hey, we're all going along with the COVID. We're all going along with 9/11. We're all going along with JFK got shot by a single guy. Even though the story is physically impossible and implausible and violates the laws of physics, we're all going to say it with a straight face together. Understand that the reporters and the editors and the publishers of dozens and dozens of ostensibly independent media organizations, okay, are organized into these front groups. And we've got a poster in both Government, the Biggest Scam in History, and in To See the Cages, to Leave It, that shows dozens and dozens of ostensibly independent media organizations where the reporters, the editors, and the publishers are meeting regularly together in secure facilities. If you don't understand that they're all in on it together, because that's been invisible. So one of the other techniques that I do is I use visualizations to make what was invisible now visible. And then, by the way, those three organizations, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and the Bilderberg Group, Jeffrey Epstein was a member of all three of those organizations, to give you an idea of what kind of people are in those three organizations. And so now all of a sudden it makes sense. Oh, well, I guess the media could have been in on COVID together. I guess the media could have sold us a parcel of lies about 9/11. Oh, I guess the media could be in on what really happened to Charlie Kirk. I guess the media could be in, and you could control dozens of ostensibly independent media organizations, getting them all playing the same tune, when you realize that all of the key reporters, editors, and publishers are in the same organizations with Jeffrey Epstein.
I think we would call that the big club.
That you ain't in.
No, you ain't in. SeeTheCage.com, artofliberty.org. Where else can people find the book? You got to get the book. And I understand when you say people are buying 5 of them at a time to give to friends. The book is not for you. It's going to have to be from you, though. So to your friends?
SeeTheCage.com is where you get those friends bundle. We call them friends bundles. Please don't buy it from Amazon. Amazon has stolen the buy box from us. I can get into. We should do a show just about the scam Amazon one day. Please buy it at SeeTheCage.com. If you're going to get the book. That's where you get it's deep discounts on getting these 5 and 10 friends bundles. It will be the most impactful, powerful gift that you ever give one of your friends, family, or colleagues, guaranteed, or your money back. And the final one is I make everything available for almost everything available for free at artofliberty.substack.com. You can find that the interview that I did with James Corbett that you mentioned. You can find a lot of my writings there for free. A lot of the one pagers from Government, the Biggest Scam in History. You can see some of those visualizations. And if you wanted to see that visualization, artofliberty.org/white-rose. We have literally a poster size of that visualization showing dozens and dozens of ostensibly independent media organizations where all the reporters, editors, and publishers are all members of the same 3 organizations that are meeting in secure facilities around the world on a regular basis so they can receive their marching orders on things like the COVID and 9/11. And to help you better understand the media, we're making what was invisible now visible through visualization. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and then you are free.
It's those paintings with all the spots, right? Where you stand and squint and look at it and you go, oh yeah, man, there's a giraffe in there. And then the dude next to you is standing that can't see it, right? So once you see it, you can never unsee it. It's great to see you, by the way. Great to see you again. Hopefully I'll see you in Puerto Vallarta. Hopefully everyone will come to Acapulco and see for themselves. It's a great place, man. So it's a type of people you want to be hanging out with. So hopefully you'll come and see us there in Puerto Vallarta in 2026. Macroaggressions.io is the website. Go check it out. Activistpost.com. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you again soon.